Greetings and salutations one and all. Welcome to the night shift. It's a brand spanking new week right here on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. Tonight we do a thing we call community and finance. How are you doing? I want to say big ups to each and everyone locked in right now. Those tuning on TuneIn Radio, the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. Across the pond, One Harmony Radio. Top of the morning to you guys over there in the UK. Those hailing from Detroit to Denmark and everywhere in between by way of WGLRO, home of the Donnie Walker Morning Show, taking you from the sheets to the streets, the people station. WGLRO, big ups to you. Of course, those who are a bit locked in from PEMG TV, glad to have you. And those right here at the home of the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew, kevinstew.com. Glad to have you. Couldn't do it without you. You have my word. I wouldn't even try. Kicking it off a little differently tonight. Music from Paul Paulin. That's called Monster. Say thanks to Pulse Media Group for sponsoring this segment of the show. When being in a moment is priceless, just give them a link, 754-999-6020. Don't worry, I'm going to play this song again at the end. You'll get to listen to it in its entirety. But for now, I got to give some recognition. Pulse Media Group, thank you very much. 754-999-6020 or visit them at pulseemg.com. They can provide you with all the services that you see right here on kevinstew.com. Hosting the site, creating the site, providing you with multimedia streaming services on the site. Just tell them you heard about them on the night shift with DJ Kevin Stew. I also want to say thank you to Althea and her healing heavenly hands. That's Althea SU. Althea is a licensed massage therapist that operates out of Broward County, North Miami-Dade, and South Palm Beach counties. She comes to you, table and oils and lotions in hand. Only requirement, pay her and get off her table when she's done. Also, big ups and thank you to Reggae Global Entertainment. Reggae Global Entertainment takes care of your trademarks, your publishing, your copyright, your legal contracts, and so much more. Give them a call, 954-998-8034. And of course, our segment sponsor for the musical therapy segment, GMAT Music Solutions, bringing your event to life. Give them a call at 954-307-GMAC. That's 954-307-4622. And they'll take care of you. sound of Paul Paulin.
If it was up to me, I would give you more than 30. How do you think that we're gonna live? We're gonna squeeze your money, you're gonna have to give. When you're all dried up, we're gonna feel better. If the system's at fault, you can always send a letter. Help, I must be in a bad dream. Now you can see what I mean. Help, 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 help me.
Ladies and gentlemen, should it help if I turn on the mic, right? Grab your helmets, fasten your seatbelts, and keep your hands and keep your arms and legs inside the ride. We are going to have liftoff in 5, 4, 3, 2. Call a friend, tell a friend. You're in for the ride of your life. We have liftoff. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our guest for the evening. Those of you who saw my post would be wondering, okay, what is Stu talking about? Someone got arrested for one little thing and then ended up being convicted for another thing and now is not. We've heard this before. So what makes this so different? Well, he doesn't quite fit the description of the quote-unquote usual suspects. And without further ado, let me just introduce to you the man of the moment, Mr. Dan Butierez. Good evening, Dan. Welcome to the show.
Good evening. How you doing?
I'm great, bro. I'm good. Daniel Butierez, welcome to the night shift. This has been a while in the making, and thank you for taking the time out to come on and share your story with the night shift listeners. Just know that after this point, you're no longer a guest, you're a family member. So the night shift becomes your show also. And tonight it really is the Daniel Butierez show. So from this point on, I hand it over to you. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to get in touch, 773-789-STEW, 773-789-7839. You can call, you can text, but I do encourage you all to jump into the stew pot on kevinstew.com. Others call it a chat room. We're very fancy over here, so we call it the stew pot. Come be interactive. If you're overseas and want to chime in, you can Skype. Kevin.stew is my Skype handle. Just link us. I'm sure you have questions. You will have questions after you hear Dan's story. So, Dan, I don't know where you're going to start, but I think the top would be a good place.
All right. I can tell you, back in 91, I was in a little bar shooting some pool. I used to go shoot pool after work every day. I was a painter. Mm-hmm. I'm still a painter. Now I'm a contractor. But I used to go shoot pool every day after work. And one day I was in there shooting pool, and a friend of mine came running in. His name was Matt. And he said, asked me where my cousin Junior was.
Okay.
I told him I didn't know. I said he hadn't gotten home from work yet. And I could see my friend was urgent. He had a lot of urgency in him. And I said, what's the problem? He said he needed to get some weed for this gal. Mm. So I said, is she good looking? He said, yeah. He said, she's single? He said, yeah. I said, well, hell, let's get her some weed.
Right.
So about 2 hours later, because I didn't know where to get it.
But you were determined to get it.
Later, I got a joint. And he called her up and told her to come on down to the bar. So she came down to the bar, and I handed her this joint. She took it, handed it to the guy next to her, and said, "What is this?" And I said, "It's a joint." And Matt, the guy that was there, he said, "Oh, that's a picture." And I looked and I said, "What's a picture?" She goes, "A sample. Didn't Matt tell you?" I said, "Tell me what." She said, "We're looking for 100 pounds." I said, 100 pounds? Lady, I don't buy pot. I don't sell pot. I don't even smoke weed. Anyway, she asked me if I would talk to my cousin Junior for her, which I later did. Right. And then they met with my cousin Junior's friends, and they asked him for $200. They'd get him 2 ounces. So the cops gave him $200. The guy took off with their money. He never came back.
Wait, you said the cops?
Yeah, I didn't know they were cops at the time.
So the pretty single girl
cops.
Is a cop?
Yeah, she was a cop.
Wow.
So they took off, and a couple weeks later, they arrested me. And they told me that if I would cooperate with them and testify against my cousin Junior, that they would drop charges on me. I told them no. So I went to a full-blown jury trial, and with the joint, the 1.3 grams of marijuana.
Right.
At the end of the trial, the jury came out, and the jury found me guilty, or found me not guilty of conspiracy to sell over 8 pounds, and guilty of an offer to sell over 8 pounds of marijuana. I was taken into custody. I went into the Pima County Jail. Now, while I was in jail, a guy came over to me, and he said, "Hey, kid, what are you doing? What you in here for?" Because I was obviously not, I'd never really been in trouble before, so this was all new to me. And I told him for offer to sell over 8 pounds of marijuana. He goes, "Really? How much did you have?" I said, "A joint." He looked at me and said, "You're not guilty." And I said, "Well, the jury seems to think I did." I was. So he showed me the law. And under Arizona law, the state has to have 8 pounds of marijuana to even take a person to jury trial.
Uh-huh.
So,
not intend to have, but actually have.
Yeah, you have to have it. There has to be an overt. They have to. It has to be an overt act.
Okay.
You have to be able to commit this crime. They have to have a belief that you can even do this crime. That's why there has to be an amount seized. So I went into sentencing, and I told the judge, I said, he said, told my attorney, "This is Mr. Butierez' sentencing. He has something to say, let him say it." I said, "Thank you, Your Honor." And I stood up and I said, "Well, Your Honor, I've been over there at the jail, and I found out that marijuana law requires a seizure of 8 pounds for the state to even take me to trial for this. And it's under 1334-08. So
right.
He looks at it. Or 05, I'm sorry, 05. 1335-05.
Okay.
Or 1334-05. Anyways, so he looks at it, and he goes, "Mr. Butierez, you're absolutely correct." He looked at the prosecutor and said, "Mr. Prosecutor, how come the jury didn't see this?" And the prosecutor said, "Well, Your Honor, we went with the other one." And the judge said, "What do you mean we went with the other one? This is the law. The jury should have seen this." And the prosecutor said, "Well, in the state's defense, Your Honor, we were hoping they convict him of conspiracy." The judge said, "Well, they didn't, and he's not guilty of this, so now what?" So they continued sentencing for another date, for the 14th, September 14th, 1992. I wound up sitting in the jail that day. Nobody came to get me. And then on September 15th, 1992, they apparently they had a private meeting where they decided to do all this, what they wound up doing on the 15th. I walked in on the 15th, and the judge said, "Okay, we're gonna. Before I do this, I want to make sure everybody here is going to appeal." And everyone said, yeah. He goes, "Because what I'm doing is only temporary. This is just temporary until the Court of Appeals can tell us what we're supposed to do."
Okay.
And they all said, "Oh, yeah, we're going to appeal. I'm going to appeal." So the judge turned around and set the judgment aside, the verdict aside, And then he said the court heard no evidence of there ever being an existence of 8 pounds or more. And certainly the court's aware that only a small bag of marijuana was ever seized in this case. Well, at that point in time, this was all over. Okay? I didn't know it at the time because I didn't know anything about the law. I put my trust in a system that failed me.
Okay.
Because the reversal on the grounds of insufficient evidence invokes jeopardy. I didn't know that. Anyways, then the judge turned around and judged me guilty of an offer to sell under a pound. Another crime I didn't do. And put me on probation pending an appeal. Well, I went on probation. I went on with my life. I was waiting for the courts to fix all this. And I got arrested for 3 probation violations. 1, for not going to my alcohol classes. 2, for drinking on probation. 3, for not reporting to my probation officer like I was supposed to. That's it. 3 technical violations.
You said alcohol
After being on
classes?
probation. Yeah, because they didn't want me drinking on probation.
So, but alcohol had nothing to do with your conviction.
Right. But they don't want you, when you're on probation, most of the time they do not want you drinking. And I was stubborn and I didn't want to, I just didn't want someone telling me what to do in my life.
So, just because you like to drink beer?
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
So, I wound up getting violated. And the judge said, Mr. Butierez, I'm not sending you to prison because you're a criminal. I know you're not a criminal. I'm sending you to prison because you're an alcoholic and I feel you're a threat to society, and therefore I'm giving you a sentence of 10 years.
What?
So, yeah, he sentenced me to prison for 10 years.
Because you're not a criminal?
Yeah, that was it. That was exactly his words. And so I just was like, wow, okay. So I went to prison. And honestly, at first I was like shocked, but I was really young, so part of me was like, cool, I get to go see what a prison looks like. But I was really young then, so I wound up going to prison, and they wound up taking me to maximum security. And as a matter of fact, one of my cellies was doing 3 life sentences for murder. That's the kind of people I was locked up with. And I wound up sending an inmate letter to the correction officer, or the specialists. They're CO3s now. They used to be specialists back there, and they're your counselors.
Okay.
Here in Arizona. So I wrote him an inmate letter, and I wanted to know why I was on this yard. I'd never been in trouble before, and my crime only involved a joint. He wrote me back and said, we don't classify you based on what you pled to. We classify you based on what you were charged with. So I wrote him back and said, I never entered a plea agreement. I never pled to anything. I went to a jury trial, and the judge found me not guilty of what I was charged with. He said, well, that's not possible. You wouldn't be here. So I asked him if I could bring my transcripts into his office. So he called me, and I went to his office. I took all my transcripts. I gave them to him. He looked at them. He goes, oh, you mind if I keep these for a few days? I said, sure. So I went back to my cell, and a few days later, I got called into his office. And I get in there, and he tells me, he goes, are these transcripts for real? And I said, well, of course they are. Why? He goes, well, if these transcripts are for real, and I'm not saying they're not, you don't have a conviction.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, the judge said I do. He looked at me and goes, do you know what due process law is? And I shook my head, no.
Okay.
And he said, you have the right to be charged. You have the right. There's a whole process they have to go through before you come to prison, and they didn't do any of it. As a matter of fact, there's not even an accusation for this crime within your police reports. This is felony kidnapping. He goes, this is serious.
Wait,
so,
what? wait.
Yeah,
wait.
the DOC told me that this was felony kidnapping and that I did not have a conviction. So he told me, we're sending you back to the courts. They need to come and get you. So we're going to send them a letter. We're going to have them come and get you. They either need to present the plea agreement or they need to come and get you. Well, they never sent a plea agreement. No one ever came and got me. So I began appealing, and I got an attorney who I told her everything deals. Oh, no, before that, I walked out of my CO3's office, and I went down to the phone, and I called the attorney that had represented me at that sentencing. And she was paid. My mother had hired her. I called her up, and she accepted my collect call. And she said, "Hey, Danny, how you doing?" I said, "I'm in prison." She goes, "Yeah, I heard about that." I said, "They're telling me that I don't have a conviction." She said, "Well, technically you don't." I said, "You need to fix this. You need to get me out of here." She goes, "I don't know how." You don't understand. What we did that day in court that was illegal.
Whoa, what?
And I don't even know how to fix this. She said, "Goodbye, Danny," and hung up.
Whoa.
So,
Wait. Pause. Time out. The lawyer told you, the attorney that was hired to represent you told you that what happened in that court that day was illegal?
was illegal. Yep.
Those were her words.
Those were her words. So,
Okay.
so then I began studying law because let me tell you, in a maximum security prison, you spend 23 hours a day locked away in a cell. The only thing you can do to get out of your cell is to go to the law library. So I spent a lot of time at the law library reading law books, and I began to find out what due process of law meant, what double jeopardy was, and how to file motions. And I began to study, and then the courts gave me an attorney to represent me. I gave her all my issues, all my claims. The same claims that I won a few weeks ago in 2020, the same exact claims that I won with, I gave her to file. She turned around and filed an Anders brief. Do you know what an Anders brief is?
No, what is that?
An Anders brief is a motion from an attorney saying that they've reviewed the record and they can find no claims to bring to the court.
Huh?
So she filed an Anders brief. And from there I began to fight my... Oh, and she did, and she asked my wife sitting here listening, she said, she asked the courts to change the record to show that I was convicted by a jury verdict. So the courts ordered, the Arizona Supreme Court ordered the courts to change the record to show that I was convicted by a jury verdict. I wanted that record change to give the DOC so they can move me to a lower security yard. So my mother flew, who was a judge, by the way, flew from New York to Tucson to get the records from the court so she could drive them all the way up here to the prison I was at in Winslow, Arizona.
Okay.
And when she got to the courts, the recorder that was the clerk at the time, he was my recorder during my trial and everything. He was now the clerk of the Pima County Superior Courts. My mom said, "I'm looking for the record that the court's order changed so I could take it to DLC." Jim Felibick was his name, and he looked at my mother and he said, "You know, I know your son. I was the court reporter at that time. I don't know what the judge is thinking. I can't change the records. The records are what they are." And I'm sorry, but your son's no more convicted today than the day they took him to prison. So my mother hired me another attorney. And the other attorney, when I got out of prison after I exhausted all state remedies, my mother, they took away law books from Arizona, so and then you had to get permission from DOC to file a motion to the courts. they told me that my case was frivolous, so therefore I couldn't file any more motions. That's when my mother hired me another attorney, and I sent him all my records and transcripts. And when I finished my time and I got out, I went to see that attorney, and that attorney said, "I've read all the cases, I've read all the paperwork here," and he goes, "It's just void. It's all void. I mean, this conviction ain't worth the paper it's written on."
This
I
is
said, "Well,
after doing how long?
this is after I did my time. I
The
did
10 years?
I'd done 5 years. I did the five years, and he told me, but I can't do this. He said, "Yeah, I have breakfast with these people. These are my friends. And to be honest with you, you're not going to find an attorney that'll take this case. Someone's going to prison for what they did to you." He said, "This is serious. It's felony kidnapping." So
this
he
is the
gave me
second
back
time
my mother's
now
money.
you're saying someone is telling you that this is felony kidnapping.
Oh yeah. So he turned around and he gave me the money my mom had paid him, and he said he couldn't do the case, and he goes, "This, you can take care of this anytime. It isn't going anywhere." I mean, he goes, "This isn't over till they enter the acquittal." So then I just completely depressed. Attorneys won't take my case. Now I've got to try and get my life together. My children were gone. They had my fiance had gotten found a new man, and my children were now gone. And my family was gone, and so I was stuck working and paying child support, and I was kind of in a state of depression. And then I started running with guys that I had met in prison that I started running into, and pretty soon I became a criminal.
Mm.
And I wound up violating parole, and they took me back for another year because I got hooked on speed meth, and I did that for about a year, and then I got violated and went to prison, and I got off that stuff, and I said, I think I'm never touching that stuff again.
Right.
And I got out after I did another year in prison. I got out and was staying to myself, trying to keep to myself, and then I ran into the manager at the apartments I was at, was a CO3 at DOC, and he also sold this stuff called crack.
Mm.
So I wound up trying that stuff, and I have an addictive personality, so here I was hooked on crack, and then I wandered into the streets because all I wanted to do at that point was die. I quit my job, I quit my apartment. My son, and I'd called my son the night that I actually left my apartment and my job. I called my son, and he said, I have a new dad now. You're not my dad."
Mm.
I hung up the phone that night, and I walked away from my apartment, never looked back, and went out and started living in the streets, doing crack cocaine. And eventually, I picked up another felony,
Right.
and this was a blessing because I wound up going back to prison, and I found God that time.
Mm.
And I walked out, and I fell to my knees, and I told God that I'd never drink or do drugs ever again, and to this day I haven't. I got out, I went to work for a company, and I climbed up, I bought some real estate, I started selling houses, and then I went and fought the state to get my contractor's license, because in the state of Arizona, you can't get your contractor's license with a felony.
Right.
So I began fighting. So I started fighting my case again. I picked up and started fighting my case again, and to try to get my rights back. And I went into the clerk's office, and when I went into the clerk's office, I asked him what was my date of conviction. So they had to order up my records because they were old, and we got them. And the clerks and I all went through all my records, and we found there was no conviction in my records, which means that what I had been fighting all these years was was true, and I couldn't get my rights. So, as I didn't have a conviction date, so I wrote on there that I wanted my rights, and my conviction was void. And then I began to fight all over again, and this time I won. This time, a judge got my record. He pulled all my files, and they found that he ruled I'd brought up the issue that there was no jurisdiction. The courts had no charge, no crime, and they came back and they found me. Not only did they find me not guilty of their crime, but then the judge further found that the conviction of September 15th, 1992 is void, which means that in 94, when they sent me to prison, they did it without a conviction. So I am, my belief, I don't know yet. I mean, I haven't seen anywhere, but I'm pretty sure I'm the first United States citizen to go to prison without a trial or without a conviction.
Okay. The jury that you, all right, before I ask that question, this document that you had shared with me, if I may have permission to share it with those who are watching, this where the judge signed that it's void. So this here, that's what I'm sharing right now, is the actual document that you have shared for this motion to vacate judgment. And I don't know why I'm getting this call right now. Okay. And the court, it reads, the court has considered defendant's October 29, 2019 motion to vacate judgment, as well as the state's February 4, 2020 to the response to the motion. In its response, the state acknowledges, quote, "It appears that the defendant was convicted of an offense that he did not commit," end quote. Accordingly, the state has no objection to defendant's motion. After significant deliberation, the court rules as follows. Pay attention, ladies and gentlemen, this is where it gets hairy. The court finds clear and convincing evidence establishing that the defendant was convicted of an offense that the defendant did not commit. The court further finds defendant's September 15, 1992 conviction is void. It is therefore ordered vacating defendant's September 15, 1992 conviction in this matter. It is further ordered vacating the February 18, 2020 hearing on defendant's motion to vacate judgment set before this court. Honorable Jeffrey T. Burgin and Judicial Administrative Assistant Joyce Burbridge also is named on this document. And this is the actual document that you were given, correct?
Yep.
Signed, sealed, delivered. So
after a 26-year fight.
So when you were given probation, you were given probation for nothing? That's what this is basically reading?
Yeah, it was for that what they found me not guilty of, that's what I was put on probation for.
Which you
I was
weren't.
on probation from September 15th, 1992 till 94 I was on probation. But you see, the judge, when he found that conviction void, it's void. It was void before it was rendered in 1992, which means in 94 there was no conviction. So Just
So,
like I had fought for years, told everybody.
but okay. So moving fast forward a few years, you had started hanging with the wrong crowd. You said the guys from prison, and you started doing
Yeah.
drugs, and now got you violated your parole, and now you are in prison again. So that time when you got caught with drugs, isn't that a legit arrest?
Yep.
So
Yeah, that one was a legit arrest.
so how does this now from 90 making that first conviction void, how does that affect the newer conviction?
Well, the newer conviction, my co-defendant that was involved in that
Yes.
had no priors. He was the guy actually driving the van we got stopped in, and which was a stolen van. He didn't have any priors, so he got a Class 6 felony and 1 year in prison. Because of that void conviction that at the time was showing as a valid conviction on my record, the courts gave me a Class 3 felony and 3.5 years in prison. So because I'm getting ready to file Rule 32 on that one to get it dropped down to Class 6 open-ended, because I didn't have a prior either.
Okay.
So,
So
and not to mention that had I not have met these people while I was in prison, I wouldn't have been doing any of it.
well, that now becomes I don't know how you can argue that, because it could be argued that, well, you're your own person and it doesn't really matter who you meet, you do what you want to do, and apparently you wanted to do that. But that came as a result of your life falling apart and you ending up in a state of depression, which led you to do something to pretty much find some solace.
Yep.
So now the chain reaction, or everything that happened, good, bad, and indifferent, points back to this first conviction. So
Yep.
we know at this point that you started hanging with the wrong crowds, and you ended up back in prison. So this was at this point the second time around. No, this would be your third time, because you went in for the weed.
Yep. For the violation.
Then you went in for the alcohol. Then now you're going back in for drugs. And when you went in for drugs, then you became a Christian. You found God that time.
You know, I want to share something when I got a moment, just in case
Yeah.
there's anyone listening that might learn from my experience.
I think
When I was
everybody
in-
should learn from your experience.
In my last time that I was in prison, it was in there that I was looking back over my past, because before this ever happened, I had been an honor roll student. I'd been a catechism teacher. I had been a hard worker, and I didn't do drugs. I didn't even know what they were, and I never stowed anything. I was never I was a law-abiding person, and as I looked back, I knew that I changed because of the people that I chose to put around me.
Right.
Or actually, I shouldn't say that I was put in a position to be surrounded by.
Yes.
But I became like the people that I was around.
Right.
And when I was in there my last time, I looked back at that and realized that I became the people that I was surrounded with. So when I walked out of prison, and the reason I'm successful today is because I knew that if I walked out of prison, I could become, if I surrounded myself with successful people, I too would become a successful person.
Mm-hmm.
So I walked out, and I don't have tattoos on me, and nobody, if you ever met me in the street, would know that I've been in prison unless I told you.
Right.
I carry myself with class and dignity, and so it was really easy for me to make friends with millionaires and business owners and police officers. I even have a friend that's a federal judge. I who, by the way, doesn't know that I ever went to prison, but I'd done work on it. I do work on his house and stuff.
Yeah.
I have a DEA agent that's a friend of mine who does know I went to prison. Who's very upset about it, thinks that this whole thing was just unbelievable,
Right.
and that someone should go to jail. But I just surrounded myself with successful people.
Right.
And I slowly became successful. And I have a successful business now.
Mm-hmm.
I live out on a ranch. I work with rescue horses on my property, and I have 20 acres out here that I'm way far away from the city. I live out in the country now.
20 acres?
And on 20 acres.
Yeah, that means you got some space for me. I'm moving.
It's beautiful out here. I tell you, I've got 16 pigs, 5 horses, a couple of goats, peacocks, turkeys.
Yeah, all I need is a quarter. Just measure me out a quarter.
There you go. Yeah. Oh, and I had about 30 chickens to the mountain lion. Got them. But
wow. Well, we can do without the mountain lions. So, all right. So we'll talk about the quarter acre in a minute. But so you surrounded yourself with more positive and successful people, and that contributed to a change with what was happening with you. Did any of these people that you started surrounding yourself with help to get to the point where you got this document that was signed by the courts on February 6th? So it was just over a month ago. So if anybody is asking and wondering, this information, this order from, as it relates to the state of Arizona versus Daniel F. Butierez, the state being the plaintiff, February 6, 2020.
It was my friend Mark. I became friends, like I said, with judges and stuff. I became friends with an attorney who'd been in law for 29 years.
Yes.
For 3 years, I found my own motions, and he checked them for me to make sure that my punctuation was correct and stuff. And he didn't get it until, for 3 years we were fighting, and then he went to a hearing with me to try and get my rights back, and he came over, he said, the state says if you pay this $20,000, they'll give you your rights. And I said, I'm not doing it, Mark. I'm not doing it. Finally, he got frustrated, and he said, I guess we're going to have to get time to negotiate with the state, Your Honor. And the judge said, okay. And then Mark sat down with me, and this is when he finally got it. He said, okay, what do you want me to ask the state for? And I said, Mark, listen, I know you have a problem with the double jeopardy. You don't believe double jeopardy is invoked. So let's just, for the sake of argument, let's say double jeopardy isn't invoked, and the state could charge me. They could try me. They could convict me, and they could send me to prison. He goes, all right, I follow you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, all right, then the state needs to charge me. They need to try me. They need to get a conviction to justify having sent me to prison. His eyes got as big as saucers, and he goes, they didn't give you a trial. I said, no, Mark, they didn't give me it. Okay. He goes, okay, now I'm at, wow, this is serious. Wow. And so that's when he finally got it, and then he started working with me on my motions, and I gave him all the cases that I had researched and everything, and he put together the Rule 24, and he filed it with his name on it, and the state wound up taking it serious then, and whether and they wound up giving in, and they tried to get it to where the judge just called it a wrongful conviction.
Yes.
That's what the state wanted them to rule, which the judge did. He ruled it was the man didn't commit this crime.
Right.
So he gave the state that part, but the second one was when he found it void. Now, I've looked for void convictions, and you can Google all day long for void convictions. I've found one void conviction. One other void conviction. It was because the guy it was 1956, and it was because the individual was a juvenile. He said he was 18. They took him to trial. They convicted him. He did 18 months in prison, and he got 30 years down the road, he got in trouble and he attacked that void judgment, and it was found to be a void conviction because he was underage. Therefore, the court didn't have jurisdiction. That's the only other void conviction I have found in the records.
So is that in the state of Arizona or in the country?
In the country.
In the whole United States.
It's the only one I could find was state versus Superior Court, and it's an Arizona one. So Arizona's has two now, and Arizona's obviously got some problems because, from what I can see, Arizona has the only person that was sent to prison without a trial too.
Being you.
Arizona's got some stuff to fix.
Wow. It really only takes one. One time for whatever. It really only takes one. And you happen to be that one. But wow. This is mind-blowing. And I can imagine your friend Mark being an attorney, one who studies the law. I can just imagine how mind blown he would have been at this point. Now,
he was.
So now, here it is, this very unique situation that you are in, because only one other voided. I've never heard of a situation like this where your conviction is voided, and now I know why. And I'm pretty sure the students of the law would be very interested in studying this and finding how to deal with this. And the mere fact that other people who are attorneys would choose to not touch this case with a long stick, even when they're being paid to do it.
Yeah, well, it's called the good old boys,
and apparently
that's where a lot of people get. Yeah, that's what happens with a lot of wrongful convictions.
Yes,
is someone messes up, the prosecutor messes up, a judge messes up, whoever it is that messes up, all the rest of them protect them. So you could have a man sitting in prison that's innocent, and nobody wants to do anything to fix it because they're all protecting the one that broke the law to get him there.
Right.
Generally, it's prosecutors. Generally, it's prosecutor misconduct.
But
the
prosecutors
which is what happened in mine.
But the prosecutors are a part of the good old boys club, as this so called, and I've heard it referred to so many times.
Yep. And that's what happened originally with mine.
Yes.
Is the prosecutor committed misconduct? The reason my jury never saw the law is because after I got all my trial transcripts and I read through them and I found where they discussed jury instructions, the prosecutor said that my attorney and the prosecutor wanted to give the jury narcotic drug statutes, which do not have a threshold, by the way, to my jury. They just decided we have to take narcotic drugs off and put marijuana on. And then it said, and here's where I know the prosecutor knew what he was doing, and here's where he manipulated. Actually, what it's called is fraud on the court, because he manipulated the whole tribune. He told the judge said, well, let's just give them both. And the prosecutor said, fine, Your Honor, give them both. And then 5 pages into the transcripts, the prosecutor comes back and says, Your Honor, he says, yeah. You know, there's that one in there that says all parts of a plant. Even, there hasn't been any expert testimony, but, we all know it was marijuana. I'd ask that you pull that one. Oh, okay, that's good thinking. So he pulled it. And that's how the jury didn't see it.
What?
And then the judge asked, do you want any lessers given to the jury? And 3 times the judge asked the prosecutor, you sure you don't want any lessers? 3 times the prosecutor said no. The reason he didn't want lessers is because there would be no way to explain a lesser with the instructions he wanted to give to the jury. See, a lesser in a marijuana charge would be the 1.3 grams, which would have been a misdemeanor possession charge. But he would have had to actually give the marijuana laws to the jury, and the jury would have come back and said, well, this is just a misdemeanor possession charge. Why are we here? So he withdrew the law so that the jury never saw this. Because just so you know, a joint in the state of Arizona, even back then, was a misdemeanor.
So, I'm
Today it's not even a misdemeanor, but back then it was a misdemeanor.
right. All right. Okay. So, where was your attorney during all of this?
My attorney was a public defender, and she was. I don't believe she practices law anymore because I couldn't find her. But she was very young, very naive, and she had no idea what she was doing, and that's who the courts had appointed to me. It was after that one, she messed up so bad, I called my mother, and my mother hired the other one.
Right.
Which is the one that did the dealing with the prosecutor, the one that I called from prison.
So
she was a hired attorney. She was hired to do my appeal.
And
my mother paid her to do my appeal.
Yes.
And she never did my appeal.
And she is also based in Arizona?
Yes.
So quite possibly she was also a part of the Good Old Boys Club.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So I might be rushing it a little bit here, but how does this end? How do you see this playing out? Because you're saying that the court, in and of itself, committed illegal acts, fraudulent acts. Twice I heard you mention kidnapping, cover-ups.
And the big one is they held me hostage for years. Yeah, I realize. Here's the best way to look at it.
By definition, it is being held hostage, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was forced to pay a debt to society because the judgment was void. Way back when, it's always been void. It's never existed. It's been an empty void.
Right.
I was forced to pay a debt to society that I didn't know. So ultimately, someone needs to pay me back the debt that I paid that I didn't know. That's what needs to happen. How long that'll take, I have no idea.
So, all right. You mentioned your mother being a judge.
Yes.
That didn't influence anything. That didn't have any. She didn't have any pull. Any. We're colleagues in this thing. Nothing.
Nope. Nothing. And the reason is because they all knew. The attorney that filed the Anders brief, she knew. The judges who denied my motions, they knew. I mean, put it this way: if a correction officer who's not an attorney,
Yes,
could look at my transcripts and know within minutes that there wasn't a conviction just by looking at the transcripts, you're going to tell me that an attorney didn't know, or a judge? They all knew. I exhausted state remedies 2 times. And I raised the same issues over and over and over, right up until this last judge, found it to be void. My issues never changed. They were always the same. And like I said, a correction officer saw it. Oh, I'll give you a better one. There's a Barbara Luwal's office here in Pima County.
yes.
They have a wrongful conviction task force. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
They do nothing but seek records for wrongful conviction cases here in Arizona to get them overturned and free the wrongfully convicted.
Okay.
They had my case. They were looking at my case. The investigator on my case read my transcripts. We spent 20 minutes sitting at a table. He went through my transcripts. This isn't a lawyer. This isn't a judge. He looked at 2 documents. He said, this case isn't over. It isn't over. They got to enter the acquittal. All right? This is just a detective. He knew within 20 minutes that my issues were all valid. So he was working on getting this all taken care of when he called me up and he told me, listen, I've been pulled off your case. A whole army of attorneys walked into my office and took all your records. So
What?
he stopped. Yep. He called me to tell me that a whole bunch of attorneys walked into his office and took every piece of paper he had on me. He said they cleaned my whole office out and took everything. So that was the end of that. And then I wound up fighting. It took me 2 more years after that to before I finally got my my conviction reversed.
So who were those attorneys, and what gave them the authority? Who gave them the authority, or what? How did they have the power to take all those documents? Who were they?
They were just county attorneys. I don't know who they were at all by name or anything, but they all work under Barbara Luwal.
So
I mean, Barbara Luwal, it's her office. She's the DA of Pima County, so
okay.
nothing
So
happens without her.
where are your
authorization.
documents now? With her?
Yeah, whatever he had, they took. Oh, and he had a couple of my transcripts that I made copies and given him, and just he was going over my case and trying to get it reversed.
So
And they stopped it.
that sounds like an attempt to keep What they
Cover it up.
started to buried.
Oh yeah, they wanted what was buried forever.
But those are only copies, which means that they'd have to get to you for you to hand over the originals for that to go away, or to
Oh yeah,
pay
no,
you
I got
off.
all my records. Yeah, I got all my records.
Either that or they just pay you off
Yeah.
so that you don't complain, you don't raise a stink.
My wife wants me to tell you about the box. When I met my wife, I had a big 4-bedroom house because, like I said, I
Hmm.
started buying and fixing up houses and selling them to get ahead.
Yes.
And she come. I had this big 4-bedroom house, 2 bath, and she came in and was cleaning up my house. And I was I was in the process of buying another house, so she was packing everything up, and she pulls this big box out, and it was what I always refer to as the box.
Hmm.
And she goes, "What is this?" And I said, "Oh, that's really important. I mean, that is really important. It's my retirement box." And she goes, "Okay." So it was. She had put it away. She put it all in another box and put it all up because I told her it was important.
Okay.
When I went and found out there wasn't a conviction in my record, I came home that day and I told her, I said, "Where is it? Where is it?" She goes, "Where's what?" "The box." She goes, "It's in the closet over there." All right. She goes, "Why? What's up with the box?" And I said, "That I knew there wasn't a conviction, so I pulled out the box and I opened it up. It's full of all my legal records."
Mm.
So from that moment, my wife watched me write motion after motion and obsessed over it to fight, which is why I put it away because I didn't want it to consume my life again. And until I was ready for it I knew it would consume me because once I started the fight, I was going to finish.
Right.
So she started looking through it. She goes, "What do you mean you didn't have a conviction?" So she began to read all my records and documents, and she, who's not an attorney and not a judge, realized that what I was saying was true. I mean, she read it and saw it. There's no conviction in my record. Never was. They put where everyone got confused is on one of my sentencing transcripts where the judge did what he did.
Yes.
The cover sheet says plea bargain, change of plea judgment and sentence is what it says. So everybody, they look at that copy and they think that I entered a plea agreement, and they never open up the record. They just see the cover, and that's where everyone got screwed up. And when I went to prison, my probation officer wrote on there, "On such and such a date, Mr. Butierez entered a plea agreement." I never entered a plea agreement. That's why DLC classified me the way they classified me, because the pre-sentence report said I entered a plea agreement.
Right.
There are all kinds of things set up in our justice system that's designed to make sure that what happened to me never happens. And there was people that were just incompetent, crooked, people that just didn't care, lazy. Everyone saw that one document, the cover sheet, and they assumed I entered a plea agreement until I went to DLC. Once I got in DLC, everyone freaked because now it's serious. I mean, had they fixed it before I went to prison, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal.
Right.
But the minute I went to prison without a conviction, all they wanted to do from that time on is try and cover it up. Cover it up, cover it up, cover it up. And hope that I laid down and gave up.
Where are those judges, those attorneys? Where are they now?
Well, the judge, he passed away.
Okay.
Many years ago. He passed away many, many years ago. I think in 2012. The other attorneys are big, successful attorneys with big firms. So,
Okay, so now you're looking to possibly rock a different boat because these are big, successful attorneys. You start telling your story and calling their names as part of this, and their business becomes threatened. These guys are pretty much have cemented their place in the legal world in the state of Arizona.
Yep.
And you have with coming out and telling your story, you have pretty much got ears perked up wanting to hear you call names and point fingers. Where do you plan to go with this? What is your course of action that you're going to take? We know you want your
Well,
name cleared, but what does that entail?
well, I was going to go to. I was supposed to go on the television here,
Yes.
but I've hired a law firm, and they told me not to, so I didn't do that. So they're. My wife says you're not even supposed to be doing this thing, but
Wow.
but yeah, we're I have a law firm that's taking over my case,
Yes.
and they're the largest law firm in Arizona, so they're going to right now they're trying to figure out what. Let me explain how it works. I can compare it to homes. I buy and sell homes.
Yes.
And when I sell a house, I look at homes in the neighborhood that have sold recently,
Mm-hmm.
so I know what I'm going to ask for the house I'm selling.
Right.
Okay, they're called comparables.
Right.
Well, when you're looking at a wrongful conviction and what you're going to settle for, or
Yes.
what you're going to demand, you look at wrongful convictions in the area and the time frame. Well, the tricky part here is mine's not really a wrongful conviction. See, wrongful convictions, they get a trial.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? They wind up being, they get found guilty by a jury, and then later on, they prove their innocence, and we all realize that they were wrongfully convicted.
Right.
Well, you have to have a conviction in order for it to be a wrongful conviction. So, being as this is the first that anyone can find, and that's what my lawyers are trying to find out. They're trying to figure out what to demand,
Mm.
and that's where it gets a little complicated. And one of the reasons that I kind of wanted the law firm to handle it because I don't know.
Right.
Well, they're finding out that it's not so easy because a wrongful conviction got a trial. I didn't. Wrongful conviction did have a conviction that gets reversed. Mine didn't get reversed. My judge found it was void, which means it didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little more serious than a wrongful conviction. Well, it's a lot more serious than a wrongful conviction.
A whole lot
wrongful
more.
conviction is a wrongful conviction is where a prosecutor commits a misdemeanor, malicious prosecution, which is a misdemeanor offense. What they did with me was a felony act. So it's a little more serious, but not that it's it's any
No.
greater than a wrongful convicted guy. He knows he's wrongfully convicted. He knows he's innocent, and my heart goes out for guys that are sitting in prison that know they're wrongfully convicted because it's a hell of a weight to carry. And I can tell you this:
Mm-hmm.
I've done both. The first sentence, the first time I went to prison, and I did that time was hard because I knew I didn't do what they were holding me in prison for.
Yes.
I knew I hadn't been tried. I knew that I didn't have a conviction. I knew all these things. So serving that time was hard. And it would be the same way as a wrongfully convicted. That's a hard sentence to serve.
Yeah.
Now, when I went to prison for the one that I did,
The drugs.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sentence wasn't as hard.
Because you knew you did that.
Because exactly. I had guys in prison the first time I was in. They said, "Well, think of the things that you did and you got away with." And I'd look at them and I said, "I was a catechism teacher before this. What could I have possibly done to deserve 10 years?"
Right. They're probably saying, go back to your childhood. All those little lies you told your parents when you stayed out of school and you skipped school and whatever. I don't know. They're grasping at straws, giving them something. But Dan, this is really and truly a big deal. You know, you're calling out the state of Arizona. In essence.
Yep.
Aren't you worried?
Oh, yeah.
But you're doing it anyway.
Yep. I have to. You've heard of Stephen Avery, right?
Stephen Avery. That name sounds familiar.
Well, they did a Netflix show on him. Making of a Murder.
Yes.
Well, my wife and I sat and binge watched it one weekend. And it scared the daylights out of my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they did with him was he was wrongfully convicted. He was released. And he was wrongfully convicted. He got released. He went after the prosecution in the state. He filed a lawsuit. They were going to have to pay out of their own pockets until they wound up getting him for the other thing. Then he took a settlement so that he could pay for his attorney to fight this other case. Because he made an agreement and settled, it brought the numbers down that they were supposed to pay him down to something they could afford, because the attorneys, the insurance wasn't going to cover his costs. So they wound up, I believe, Steve Avery is an innocent man that got set up. The reason I believe that is because I watched it happen to me.
Right.
The system can be very corrupt. So,
well, last year I was introduced to 2 cases in your neighboring state, in Texas. One of them being Richard Miles, who was recognized by CNN as a CNN hero. And he started Miles of Freedom when he got released for his wrongful conviction. And one that is doing time right now, who made headlines late last year with his second stay of execution, Rodney Reed. And we've heard how presumably corrupt the system can be, because we have to say it is presumed until it is proven, and we are seeing that with the Rodney Reed case now. I have a young lady who will be speaking with us in 2 weeks by the name of Laquanda Faye Jacobs, and she at age 16 got convicted for a crime that she didn't commit. She was just in the place at the wrong time. Funny enough, she was there with her mother. So we'll hear that story in a couple of weeks, and what is happening with her. But time and time again, as I talk to more and more people, I'm realizing that the song goes pretty much the same way. The words are a little bit different, but the tune hums the same way. And it has undertones of cover ups and corruption because of the quote unquote good old boys club. You calling out the good old boys club like this, they have a whole lot more experience, they have a whole lot more money. Are you doing it out of principle? You hope to shed some light on what could possibly go wrong in a case, because no, other people also have something to look at as a possibility.
Yeah, well, everyone needs to know that it doesn't matter who you are. If they get you, there's nothing going to stop them. It doesn't matter how much money you got. It doesn't matter who you are.
Yes.
I'm a white man with blue eyes that comes from a fairly wealthy family. Mother was a judge, came from a good home life. They got their teeth into me, and there was no getting out. It took me years and years and years of fighting, studying. I had to learn the law. Had I not have took the time to learn the law,
Yeah.
I would have never won. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't believe the number of attorneys that I talked to that didn't believe me, because it's not possible. It's just not possible. What you're saying is not possible. I tell Judge, I talk to even my friend that I just helped me win my case.
Yes.
He goes, "You keep saying void. I don't understand what you mean by void." Most attorneys, criminal attorneys, do not know what void is, because it's not possible. It just doesn't happen. I explained it to him. I said, "Mark, there is an Arizona law. ARS Rule 23.3 says a person cannot be found guilty without a form of verdict." He goes, "Okay." I said, "Then you have a judgment where a judge found me guilty without a form of verdict. These two items cannot exist within the same realm. Either the law's void or the judgment's void. Which one's void?" You know, his eyes got, again, they were like two saucers. As he got it, he said, "I get it. Okay, no, you're right. It's void."
And this is something that you learned just by reading, utilizing the law library, pulling up cases, learning definitions.
Yep, I studied things, and I studied it.
This is over 2 decades of study.
I had to learn what void was, and I had to, and there wasn't a whole lot to look at for void. That's why attorneys don't really know anything about it. They're in the civil world a lot. I
Right.
mean, you can look up void. You look up void, and there's a lot of void in the civil part, but not in a criminal. For a conviction to be found void, something had to really be screwed up. I mean, something really, really bad had to have happened. And the courts, for the most part, set up so that this can't happen. The jurisdiction is what, lack of a jurisdiction is what leads to a void. And That means, and the courts don't normally mess up. You get stopped in this part of town, and that you go to this jurisdiction. You
Right.
commit a misdemeanor or a felony, you go to either the justice courts or the superior courts, and you go to a grand jury. Grand jury renders the charges that you're going to face, and they give the indictment, and then you go to trial. I mean, that's the way it works. I went through all that. I finished my case. I won my case. Double jeopardy was invoked. Then they turned around and judged me guilty of something else that no one even accused me of doing, because the prosecutor didn't want to lose. And that's the other problem that we have with wrongful convictions. We have overzealous prosecutors. They prosecute a case. A jury finds, that there's not enough evidence. He knows there's not enough evidence, yet they prosecute the case anyways. And they refuse to lose. The prosecutor I had in my case couldn't handle the thought of losing. Period. He lost. He changed the law to win. He still lost. And then he wouldn't let it go. So the judge turned around and said, all right, you know what? You want to appeal my decision to do this? I'll go ahead and put Mr. Butierez on this probation for this crime while you go ahead and appeal. And then he didn't appeal. You know why he didn't appeal? Because the Court of Appeals would have ordered my acquittal entered and let me go. That's why he never appealed. And he made a deal with the attorney that my mother hired to not appeal it. So neither one of them appealed my case. They left me on probation, and here's what happened. My attorney got a win, the prosecutor got a win, and I got screwed.
Exactly.
That's what happened. And now I didn't give up, and now it's my turn. And I'm not the same kid that they ran through the system. I was a kid that didn't know anything and put his trust in the system. I will never again trust the system. And I don't have to trust the system because I know the law today.
You see, now, that right there is a powerful and scary statement where you say, I no longer trust the system. The system that is in place for not to sound cliche or not anything like that, but it's what they say. It's to protect us.
Yep.
Protect your liberties, protect your rights, to protect. But I guess it goes only as far as those that stand to benefit will take it.
Yep, you got that right.
And where that is concerned, that is a problem. That's a major problem. Because now what you find happening is you will have anybody that is an officer of the law in any capacity will find that they can bend it to suit them, as we have seen happen in a lot of wrongful conviction cases. But a lot of us don't really connect the dots and see how intricate it can be with these cases. We hear about them and we go, oh, here we go, it's another one. And we go, oh, I bet you it's another a young black male from this deprived community. Okay. What do they say now? Here's a young white male from a suburb.
Yep, it don't matter. If they want you, they're going to get you. And I actually lived up in the foothills. I grew up in the foothills. I grew up in the upper part of Tucson. And, I was an honor roll student. I was a good kid. So it doesn't matter. Once they sink your teeth in you and they decide that they're going to get you and they're not going to let you go.
So now you have a new life. You said your fiance then went on and re established a new relationship with someone else, and your kids went along with her. Do you have a relationship with your kids now?
Well, I do talk to my son, Daniel.
Yeah.
My daughter, she's my stepdaughter. She's actually, my kid's mother now lives in Florida.
Oh,
And
she's my neighbor.
my stepdaughter lives in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
She's in the Air Force.
Okay.
My two sons are here. So, and their mom wants them to move to Florida, but they don't want to leave Dad. So,
Okay, nice. Um, that's that's awesome. Uh, I see you have a picture that you had sent me with two young men and two young ladies. Would those be your sons?
those are my kids. My son's the blonde-headed kid, and the other kids are my stepkids.
No, I'm tempted to share this with everybody, but I'm scared for them because you have rolled the dice here. You have started pointing fingers, and you turned on a light. Now there'll be some scurrying because you turn on a light over a pit and the cockroaches go running. And with what you have been saying about what you went through, then the system is the pits. And we have lawyers and judges that run around in these pits, so I guess I need not say anymore. So now they're gonna be scrambling, and you pretty much could become a target.
Yeah, I could, but I'm not. My faith in God's pretty powerful.
Amen to that.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. I told my mom. I said, Mom, from the time I fell on my knees and turned my life over to God, He removed every obstacle from my path. I was $100,000 in debt when I was sitting in prison. I owed child support. I owed fines and restitution. And I was in a hopeless situation the day that I came to understand that God was real, and I fell on my knees.
Yes.
When I stood up from that prison floor, I never fell again. God removed all the debt from me, brought my kids back into my life,
Mm-hmm.
gave me I bought these homes really cheap. I sold them for 3 times what I paid for them. I began to climb and build a life. I started a company. I didn't even have any fear when I started my company because I knew God had me. And I told my mother about 7 months ago, I think it was about 7 months ago,
Yeah.
I said, Mom, you need to believe me when I tell you God's got me. Because she was worried.
Yeah.
I said, Mom, God's got me. Trust me. He's removed every obstacle from my path, and there's only one left. I said, you mark my words. I'm gonna win my case. 7 months ago, I told my mom that. When I won, I called up my mom. I said, Mom, remember what I told you? then it was, I told her 6 months ago. I told you God removed all my obstacles, and then He's going to remove the last one. And she said, "Yeah." I said, "I won."
Yeah.
She started crying. She just started crying. She couldn't believe it. She goes, "You did tell me that."
Yeah.
I said, "Yep." I said, "I won everything, Mom." The judge, not only did he find me not guilty, but he found there wasn't a conviction either.
I'm here sharing the image that of you in this shirt that said, "God took me to it. He took
Yep.
me through it."
My stepdaughter did that on that shirt. And now I believe it. God took me to it. He took me through it.
Yeah.
And He did.
Yes, that He did indeed.
Oh.
Dan?
So I walk through this world without fear.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, right?
Yep.
You know, I tip my hat to you because this is not something easy to do. And you mentioned you didn't really get into it a whole lot, but you did mention the hard time that you faced going to prison the first time. And I'm pretty sure when
Oh,
you
yeah.
came out, it wasn't easy.
Oh,
And
no.
I've had guests come on the show and talk about their time. In fact, one of my more recent guests introduced me to post incarceration syndrome. I didn't even know there was such a thing.
When you first get out of prison, when you've done a long stretch, like I did a long stretch,
Yeah.
I remember going into the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
See, when you're in prison, you got you order up commissary.
Yeah.
Okay, you order up commissary, and they take the money out of your account, and you go up and you pick up the bag of groceries at the window, and you go back to your house, and that's your grocery shopping.
Right.
Well, when I first got out, I remember walking into the grocery store. They bagged up my groceries, and they grabbed my groceries, and I started to leave.
Wow.
And I caught myself and said, "Oh, wait. I'm sorry. I just got out of prison." And, well, of course, she doesn't understand what I'm talking about, but I knew why I did it. Because I was used to grabbing my sack and leaving.
Right.
I turned around and paid for it, but I wasn't thinking. And, and you walk out of prison, and society doesn't stop. We stop. Our lives stop.
Right.
But everyone else's lives move on. Like the hardest thing that happened to me while I was in prison was I called my mom up and I said, "Mom, can you send me some money?" And she goes, "Honey, I don't have it. I just bought Benita and her boyfriend a house." And I said, "Her boyfriend?" And my mom said, "Oh, you didn't know?" I said, "No, Mom. I thought you knew." Well, she was my children's mother, and that was how I found out that
she had moved
she had
on.
left me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was that. But here I am sitting here wanting a store, and I can't get a store because my mom bought, my family a house.
Right.
I'm sitting here thinking she bought this guy who's got my family a house, and I don't. And yeah, that was rough. That was really hard.
Yeah.
But
I can imagine.
You can only adapt and move on. And I did. I adapted and moved on. But I got out of prison, and I had to pay my child support. Well, then I had to fight to see my kids because she wouldn't let me see my kids. And I had to go to court and fight to see my kids. And I finally got to see them, and I was paying child support. It was really hard. I mean,
Right.
you're first off, you're walking out of prison with nothing.
Yeah.
You have nothing. You're starting to work. You get a place to live. You got no car. You got nothing because you didn't have. You don't. I mean, you're starting over.
Yeah.
But you're starting over with a big child support debt on you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was paying my child support and eating beans and rice and living in a little teeny shack of an apartment. And it was hard. I mean, it was really hard.
Yeah.
And, today I don't owe any child support. And I got out and got this the last time I got out.
Mm-hmm.
My son's mother was there. And we got back together for a while.
Yeah.
And I got to raise my son through his teenage years, which was really hard because it was teenage years. But
Mm-hmm.
but I got to my family for a minute, and then she left to move to Florida. But and it was all good because there was just there was too much under the bridge,
Yeah.
too much resentments. But I did get the opportunity to raise my son for his last years, and now my son's with me. He's not here with me. He's at his own place, but
Yeah.
he's not leaving his dad. So
Yeah. And I
I
know
guess
I know what it's like when you have your son by you. Yeah. Last year, my older son actually was a guest on my show talking about standardized testing, it was really interesting for me because he just turned to me one day and said, "Dad, I want to be on the show, and I want this is what I want to talk about." I was like, "Hey, have at it," and he did. So I know, and this is something for your case is a whole lot goes a whole lot deeper than mine, but just to recognize that bonding and that feeling of being there. Yeah, I get it. I really do get it. And when you're taken away from them for a time, every time that you do spend with them is precious. Even after being free, you recognize it differently. You have you have a newfound respect for quality time with people. And
oh yeah,
as you go on this journey, because you have started a whole new journey now. You know, I I don't even know how I can say, boy, Dan, I'm riding with you on this one. I don't know how Mark would turn to you and say, Dan, I'm riding with you on this one, because this is unprecedented. Nobody knows how this is gonna turn out.
no, no. I know my mother's writing a book. She's going to tell the whole story in it.
Well, you just told the story, and nobody can tell it like you. So now that the story is out there and documented, let's see what they come up with. Because now it
Right.
becomes the he said and we say. We're gonna stay on top of this one then. I'm gonna have to bring people updates and what's going on. So we're gonna need to stay on top of this one.
All right. Well, I have a feeling the next thing that they come up with will happen within the next month or two.
Yeah, I suspect so.
I only have we've got like 50 days before I have to have my claim filed. So
Okay.
I think I'll be moving real quick then. So.
Well, off to the races we go. And I guess I'm in this one now.
All right.
Then you go get some rest. I know I'm a little bit ahead of you on the clock, but you have a whole lot to do with them 20 acres.
Yep. Yeah, I got to get
Plus
up
your
early.
business.
Yep. So, well, you have a good evening.
Thank you. And you take care.
All right,
I'll be
thank
praying for you and keeping the line open.
All right.
All right, bro. You take care. And tell your wife good night for me.
I will. Okay.
All righty.
Good night.
Good night. Whew. Dan Butierez, ladies and gentlemen. I'd tell you to go look it up and compare notes, but I don't know what you're gonna compare it to. It has never happened. So, there, take your first, make your notes. The show will be in the archive by morning. You can tell your friends about it. You can share it with them. Where do you find the archive? Right here on kevinstew.com. You just scroll down to the bottom of the page. You'll see video archives. Hey, Dan said it. Nothing more that I can add to it. Nothing I can take from it. Let me just... It's 16 minutes before we get out of here. We have an abbreviated musical therapy tonight. Let me just take this quick break. And we come back and we roll out with some music. Alright? So, we'll be right back.
Pulsey Media Group, innovative streaming and recording, has done it again. A new way to get your business in full view of your neighborhood consumer through AdShare TV. It's available in your neighborhood today. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. Become a host today and place a TV monitor in a strategic location so it's easy to see. Get a 1-minute video ad or longer that plays anywhere in our network. Can't be a host? No problem. For a few dollars, we'll run your 30-second video ad. A host can run announcement specials like buy one get one free or discount ads. Let's turn your flyers into a 30-second video with music or a voiceover, or let us create and run your video ad with a spokesperson. Take advantage of our early enrollment discount. Join us today. Your ad will be seen at least 30 times per day in your AdShare TV neighborhood. It's easy. Just call us 754-999-6020. AdShare TV, part of Pulsey Media Group.
Greetings and salutations, one and all. You're invited to tune in to the Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew. It airs on Mondays with Community and Finance, Tuesdays with Healthy Love, and Wednesdays with Real Talk from 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time. Come spend some time interacting in the stew pot where we keep things bubbling and wind down in musical therapy. The Night Shift with DJ Kevin Stew is on kevinstew.com, where you're encouraged to have acceptance through enlightenment. Matthew 28:19 says, "Go ye therefore and teach all nations." With this in mind, and encouragement received during a South Florida media conference, The Church Links was birthed. The Church Links is an interdenominational worship service portal for churches, providing the tools to spread the word through technology in a cost-effective way. The Church Links, www.dah.org. churchlinx.com. Your links to worship and praise.
It's Christine representing for DJ Kevin. You see me, I say, I don't know the boss. You see me, I say, DJ Kevin's Chew and the night shift radio show. Yo, it at the thing, turn up the thing loud. Whoa, DJ Kevin's Chew at the heart of a champion. Never underestimate, just choose him. The silver line behind the dark clouds. DJ Kevin's Chew, believe him, and that's no doubt. Salute the night shift radio show, Christine. It's a hot it up. Loud.
Like I said at the beginning of the show, I was gonna play it again. It's called Monster. Paul Paulin. It's called Monster. the track about wrongful incarceration. This is China Nicole. Let it be for justice.
Time for us to make peace and stop the fighting. One love, one unity, got to break the bondage. No more borders around me, no more mental slavery. But Marley said it best, stand together and feel alright. But if we fight, let it be for justice. And if we war, let it be for justice. At all costs, let it be for justice. Do what is right, let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. No matter what it costs, let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. Inequity, disparities, and violence, oppression, racism. No, I won't be silent. No more barriers for we. We will thrive, prosperity. Marcus Garvey said it best. None but ourselves can free your minds. But if we fight, let it be for justice. And if we war, let it be for justice. At all costs, let it be for justice. Do what is right, let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. No matter what it costs, let it be for justice. 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 No matter what it costs, let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. We the people are from royalty. I wish so many of us can see. Keep the culture, be united, stop the violence. Put the power in ourselves, create the franchise. In the news last week, another bomb overseas. I'm so sick of these murders in the streets. Ooh, why I? Ooh, why I? But if we fight, let it be for justice. And if we war, let it be for justice. At all costs, let it be for justice. Do what is right, let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. No matter what it costs, let it be for justice. 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 No matter what it costs, let it be for justice. Let it be for justice. Why I? Let it be for justice.
I was gonna play Yannick's Cherish the Day, but instead I'll close out with Ed Robinson. Don't forget to remember.
I said the more things change, the more them remain the same. Yeah, even though it rains today, yet come tomorrow, it all just drains away. All fades away. Yeah. Today might fill with pain, but come tomorrow, the joy returns again. The joy returns again. And after all the fuss and all the fight, everything they put us through, and after all the cuss and all the sus, the one thing to do is don't forget to remember, come November, their world remain the same. Nothing will change. I'm hoping remember, nothing on earth will change. Nothing ever changed, no. The lies that them tell today, come tomorrow, they'll tell them lies again. Same lies, oh, yeah. The system that's in place to keep us in our place will never change. No. Cause after all the fight, they'll take your rights, and we know it's true. And after all the talk, we march and walk, the one thing to do is don't forget to remember, come November, the world remain the same. Nothing ever changed, no. I'm hoping that you remember, come November, it's still the same. Nothing on earth will change. Nothing ever changed, no. Round and round and round, this old world still goes around. Round and round and round, but sooner or later they'll feed the ground. Round and round and round, when will my people start to learn? What goes up comes down. Who start the fire will get burned. Don't forget to remember, come November, the world remain the same. Things changes the more.
Those are the words that I leave you with tonight.
I'm hoping that you remember, come November, please.
It's really important that we do our part to create a change. And believe it or not, we can actually influence a change.
I'm hoping that you remember, come November, please remember.
And in the United States, it happens come November. This November, with the elections.
Come November, the world remain the same.
I want to thank you each and everyone for tuning in tonight. Those who didn't catch tonight's show, I suggest you share it with them. And I'll be back here tomorrow night, same time, 10 p.m. Eastern, right here, kevinstew.com for Healthy Love. Hey, the quest continues. The quest for answers, the quest for the truth, the quest for healthy, long lives. I'll be back tomorrow. Until then, good morning, good afternoon, good day to you, wherever you are in the world, from right here in South Florida. I bid you good night. When being in the moment is priceless, consider the ability to share that moment. If you can video it, you can broadcast it. And Pulse E-Media Group has the tools you need. Weddings, birthdays, funerals, graduations, church services, parties, seminars, you name it. Pulse E-Media Group can provide you with a secure medium controlled by you to broadcast your event. Contact us at www.pulsemediagroup.com for more information. Pulse E-Media Group, when being in the moment is priceless.